This episode of The Edge is brought to you by Audible.com, offering more than 180,000 titles for smartphone, tablet, and desktop. To get a free audiobook of your choice and help Trek.fm at the same time, visit audibletrial.com/trekfm. And also by Enterprise in Space, an international program of the nonprofit National Space Society. Find out how you can help science and education and become a virtual crew member aboard the NSS Enterprise Orbiter by visiting enterpriseinspace.org. And if you want to join the conversation and share your thoughts on this episode, join the Babel Conference, our listeners group on Facebook. Just type BABEL into the Facebook search field. We look forward to seeing you there.
You're listening to Trek FM.
What have you done out there on the edge of Federation space?
Hello and welcome to Tracks from the Edge, Trek FM show, where we take a look at new episodes of Star Trek and provide audio commentary for them. I'm Mike.
I'm Max.
And today we are going to be taking a look at episode number 750 of Star Trek.
Big 750. We made it.
Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 2, New Eden.
It's amazing. We've come all this way, and the chairs on the bridge are still not comfortable.
I don't know. I sat in one of those chairs. I sat in the captain's chair when I was in Vegas a few years ago. That's the picture that I have on my Twitter thing.
Yeah, I can see the captain's chair being comfortable, but like the other chairs, what's with Discovery's weird super arched back chairs? That's not right.
The one interesting thing about the captain's chair is that there's lots and lots of space between the armrests. So if you put your arms on the armrest, you're extending not your forearms, but what are they? Your back arms.
Your back arms, yeah. That's the term. Medical term, back arms.
You're extending them like all the way out, So and I saw, because people were getting their picture taken, and I was I saw everyone sitting very captainly in the chair, and I'm like, if I was a captain and I was sitting in this chair, I was at work, I would sit in a certain way, which would not be all stoic
Well, it's about the arms spread out, the chest as expanded as possible. It's about the captain is in such a position of authority and power that by sitting in that position, in a primal level, by exposing one's vulnerable side to potential attackers, you're saying, I am so confident in my abilities that I can expose my vulnerabilities to you, and I am still not afraid. So that pose, that wide stance with your arms out and your chest exposed, it's why that is an attractive position for people to be in. When you see someone like that, you're oh, that person's approachable. And when someone's closed off with their arms around their chest, you're oh, that person's locked down. That person's in defensive mode. So that arm positioning was probably an intentional thing, and not just somebody thinking big chair.
Okay. Well, the approach that I took was, how would I be sitting if I were going to watch a movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's how I sat in the chair. And then they took the picture, and if you go to @Mumbles3K on Twitter, you can see the result, which is basically me just kind of leaning on one armrest.
Yeah, you lean on one side, you lean to one side, and that's because you're trying to be comfortable. And that's not what it's about, man. It's about a show of force.
I feel comfortable being a captain.
Okay.
And I have a Josie and the Pussycats shirt on too, which is that's pretty great, I think.
No, I get it. I'm on board.
Yeah. Anyway. What does that have to do with this thing? Oh.
Chairs.
Uncomfortable chairs. Yes. Uncomfortable chairs on Star Trek even after 750 episodes.
After all this time. At least they swivel now.
That's true. So this episode was written by, the story was written by Akiva Goldsman and Sean Cochran. Akiva Goldsman, of course, was an executive producer last year. This year, he's a consulting producer.
Sean Cochran, ancestor of Zephyr Cochran.
Sean Cochran is an ancestor of Zephyr Cochran, who also wrote an episode in season 1. I don't remember which episode it was, but it was the episode, I guess it was when they first get to the mirror universe, because it's the one where they're like changing everything, all the costumes and everything, to make them look like they're in the mirror universe.
Yep.
And there's like that montage with like the Lorca voiceover where he's like, we have to be them. We have to live this. We have to do everything that we can. We've got to walk the walk and talk the talk. And then you see like all of the changes being made, and the way that is structured is very, very similar to the montage in Bring It On, where they decide that they're going to be gathering techniques from all sorts of different influences of dance and everything like that, and incorporating them into their brand new routine, which they're going to bring to the finals. And it was so similar that I thought for sure that there was an intent. It was a reference to it. I thought for sure that's what it was. I was so sure that I went to Sean Cochran on Twitter for confirmation, and he said, no, but maybe subconsciously, because really, what isn't influenced by Bring It On?
Yep.
And I was like, okay, he gets it.
Yeah, that checks out.
That's also where I discovered in that montage, Eliza Dushku is wearing a navy blue T-shirt with white letters going across the chest, which say disco.
Yeah, it's really freaky. Honestly,
it's pretty awesome.
It like Bring It On might be Prophecy,
and also one of the greatest movies ever made.
Well, that's not that important. I mean, the question is whether or not it's Prophecy.
I think you could say it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
that checks out.
Okay, so Sean Cochran. Not only did he co-write the story of this episode, he also co-wrote the teleplay along with Vaughn Wilmot, or is it Wilmot? I'm not sure. Anyway,
Wilmot the barber.
He is a new writer on staff. He's the co-executive producer, and apparently lifelong Star Trek fan who has written for a number of television shows, including Sons of Anarchy, and he actually created this show Dominion. Do you remember this show? It was like a Sci-Fi Channel show, which was based on that movie Legion with like Paul Bettany, where it's like,
yeah, he's like an angel. And he sees things.
Yeah, it's like it's basically like Assault on Precinct 13, but with like angels and demons or something.
Yeah,
I saw it once, like the day before it came out, and that's basically all I remember about it. But they did like a sequel show to it, which when that was announced, I was like, wait, what? Like, how does that get? I mean, it's just so random, you know. But
well, I mean, like the imagery's cool, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like I saw that, you know, and when I found out about the TV show, I was like, am I missing something? Do I need to go back and rewatch this movie because I don't know. I didn't. But it was just like, it was like such a very specific thing to say, like, we are doing a
Legion,
sequel.
And you've seen one episode of Game of Thrones.
I watched.
What is going on?
I was getting paid to watch Legion. Okay,
guys. Okay.
Anyway, so he created that show.
Okay.
And he wrote for like Sons of Anarchy and a few other things. He also, though, Star Trek fans may remember him for his performance as a random Bajoran crew member in the season 6 Next Generation finale, Descent.
Well, I was going to say, was he the guy in the season 6 Next Generation finale, Descent?
That was him.
I was going to say that sounds familiar. I think that it was in that one episode that I forgot already.
And you can tell from his performance in that episode that
Descent Part 1.
Yeah, that he would have a hand in writing New Eden.
Oh yeah, you could see it on his face in that one scene.
You could see it. You could totally see it. So yeah, this episode, it was, I mean, apparently everyone involved behind the scenes of this episode was in Descent Part 1, because the guy who played Commander Riker in that episode also had a hand in this. He directed.
I don't remember that guy. I remember the Bajoran guy. I don't remember this guy.
Yeah, his name is Jonathan Frakes, and he's directed a few other things before. He did
Clockstoppers guy. He's the Clockstoppers.
He did Clockstoppers. He did Librarians. What was the other show that Dean Devlin produced? Leverage. He worked on that show.
I saw the first season of that show.
Yeah. And apparently
it's like the A-Team.
He directed this week's episode of The Gifted too. So
I don't know what that is.
It's the X-Men show on Fox. The X-Men show that's not Legion. Oh, see how it's all tied together?
No, not really.
Okay. So he directed this episode. And
cool.
And we're going to watch it.
All right.
Are you ready?
Oh my God, I've been ready for so long.
Okay, so we're going past the CBS All Access logo.
Yeah.
And we're going to start this up. If you want to watch along with us, you can. If you don't, you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what we're talking about. And we're going to give a countdown and start up the episode in 3, 2, 1, start. Previously on Star Trek Discovery.
We haven't done this before. So we're establishing all the dumb things so that people who didn't watch the previous episode of this show that's available online at any time. I mean,
no. See, here's where I appreciate this, because there's plenty of shows where like I'm watching them and then the month goes by and I don't see something. So I want to know. I like this. When there isn't a previously on, I'm like, damn. I think I need to watch the episode that I just watched in order to cut. That happens to me with Westworld all the time. I still haven't finished it. I still have like 3 episodes left. And part of it is the fear of not remembering.
Okay. I mean, I feel that's a little silly because, like, if you don't remember everything, like, once someone is like, since they broke in and disabled those security systems, we've been struggling to get these things working, and I'll be like, oh yeah, they did break in, remember when Tony died, and I'm like, oh, Tony's dead, can't ship that anymore. Like that's how I watch shows. I don't worry about forgetting things, because for the most part, you don't forget anything that matters. And if you forgot something, guess what? It's fine. It didn't matter. Okay.
Well, we just heard a voiceover from Spock, is the same thing that we heard towards the end of the last episode, and now Burnham is presenting the info that she got from Spock to Pike.
Yeah, she got the info on the mysterious signals. It's exciting.
Yeah. And I still,
this is like if the Marvel Universe made like a bunch of movies where people were like going to do something and they didn't find an Infinity Stone. It's like what it.
I can't say that I'm, and here's the thing about it. Like, even though I've watched each of these episodes twice, I don't have a firm grasp on what the big deal is. Like, they keep on saying, like, the urgency of this mission means we got to break General Order 1 and all this other stuff. And I'm like, why is it urgent? Like, I mean, and I know that they've dealt with it, but I don't remember the specifics, because it really almost feels like a MacGuffin,
Oh, it does it. I mean, it's really frustrating, because they're like, this signal was sent out simultaneously in 7 different places throughout the galaxy, and I'm like, hold on a second, what are these faster than light signals? Like, how did they all arrive at the same time? Like, if a signal is sent from one part of the galaxy and the same signal is sent from a completely different part of the galaxy, like, those are not going to arrive at the same time. Like, you're going to be piecing that together over the course of 100,000 years.
But I mean, the other thing about it is, they say like, well, we have trouble tracking down where they came from and stuff like that. And I mean, that's like a thing. I I haven't quite picked up on why or how or what that means. I mean, they're looking at these signals, but and it's not. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I'm sure it's all in there, and I'm sure like people listening to this are going like, well, obviously, they say that. But the fact that I've watched both of these episodes twice and I didn't pick up on it, to me, I mean, maybe that's my fault, but I mean, this doesn't have, like some sort of, dense Watchmen-like narrative or something like that. Like,
no, it's such an improbable thing. Like the idea of these signals coming from all these different places. Like, obviously, it's not an artificial thing. Like, it happened in a bunch of places, and it's the same signal. So, obviously, a very big, powerful intelligence is responsible for it. And that's it. It's just like, oh, obviously, something far more advanced than us did this. We got to figure out what it is. Because, I mean, like, on the one hand, what if it's bad? Like, that might be really, really bad. And on the other hand, what if it's not bad? It's amazing. That could be the best civilization we ever encounter. Like, that would be like a civilization of all time. I mean, like, you'd have to give them a sash. I mean, they might not be able to wear it because, I mean, they're probably freaky aliens.
It just seems like there could be a bit more clarity there. But maybe that's my fault. I don't know. Anyway, we saw Tilly's workstation there for a second. With all
she's got a lot of windows open.
Her
I get
windows
that.
Open.
That's how I roll.
Of course, someone on Reddit, paused it and wrote down every single thing, especially on her like to-do list, which is like 50 items long. But one of her items is organized movie night. Mm-hmm. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There's some funny stuff on there, like make a list of my favorite plays, followed by read my favorite plays, just like things like that, and then it's all very Tilly stuff. So, yeah. She's cool. There's a lot of Tilly stuff in this episode. I mean, I know that it could just be hallucinations from, head trauma or whatever, but you got to think that little green speck that flew on her shoulder has something to do with this stuff, right?
Oh, do you think that? Do you? I mean, is that your hypothesis?
I mean, I didn't actually like put this together until just this very moment, but the fact that she's seeing her dead friend.
It's these people who are connected to Mushroom Land. They're seeing ghosts.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's a thing. They're seeing ghosts. Well, okay. I mean, okay. I mean, Tilly's like doing a much better job of it because Stamets has got to like get all like jacked into the Matrix in order to see his ghost. I mean, he should get that one green spore thing and get Culber back full time. Get a regular old head character on this show.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about the head character connection. Now my cat is trying to kill my Han Solo little stuffed keychain thing.
Yeah, these things happen.
And he's doing
Han Solo gets murdered. It's a thing that happens.
Yeah. Oh well. So I feel bad for Stamets here, and in some ways I wonder why he's actually agreeing to this. Like, they're like, oh, Stamets can do it. But like last season, they were like, that was very, very traumatic and really took a toll on his body and everything. And like the whole thing, like making one last jump, which put them in the mirror universe. Like that was like, he's like, I'll do this to get them. But like, it's still not like a safe technology or anything. So the fact that he's like, yeah, fine, I'll jump. That seems a little weird. But then also you got this whole connection thing. And he's just like, this is really, really depressing. And it's like, well, that's not a nice thing to make him do.
I mean, it's a bummer of a situation where like the guy is like, saying basically like, my concern is that when I go into this mycelial network, I might not come back. That's a bummer.
Is that I don't think that's what he's saying though, right? I mean, I think what he's saying is... I think that's
definitely what he's saying.
I think what he's saying is like, Culber is on the other side and I might see him, but there's no way that I can be with him because I'm on this side.
No, but he had a real hard time getting back, and he needed help to do it. Like, there was a struggle to get back from it, and his concern is most definitely that he might not want to come back.
Is this entire episode going to be us just trying to figure out what's going on? And the theoretical listener just being like, what's wrong with you guys?
No, I'm very confident in this interpretation, and I think it'll be even more obvious in later episodes.
All right. As soon as I saw this shot of the old-timey Earth stuff, I was like, this is going to be like a good old-fashioned standalone episode of Star Trek.
Oh, that was a silly thing to think.
I mean, it is, basically.
Like, I thought, I was like, oh, so they really are trying to make this like fit into the original series continuity, because they went to another planet very far away and found an Earth colony there.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think of that. Is that going to be the explanation? Is this season going to be the chase of Star Trek series?
Oh my God, you're trying to put like this big picture thing together. I don't think that that's how it goes. I think that they were like, you know, it was cool on Star Trek when they'd go to another planet and they'd like beam down and they'd be like,
well, yeah,
is this an old West village?
No, I mean,
what's going on?
But I mean, no, that was my thought. But after you just said this right now, I was thinking like, are they going to say like, yeah, this happens all the time? Like these guys, like they took so many like random people from Earth and just deposited them on different planets, and you know, maybe we'll encounter them someday. That's obviously I mean, the thing about that, if that is what it is, it's kind of weird because I mean, they did build science into the original series. It was on a much larger scale than would ever be possible, but their whole thing was like the many worlds theory. You know, like they say that in like the Bible, you know?
Yes. And that is a misinterpretation of the many worlds theory. But
well, yeah, of course it is. But you know.
And there's also like the problem of, I mean, the explanation that's used like later on is convergent evolution, which like pops up in science fiction all over the place because like there are examples of it on Earth. Like if you look, if you're not like part of the species and you look at the species just like an objective observer looking at like, I remember an example from Arthur C. Clarke was like a dolphin and a shark.
Oh,
like
Arthur C. Clarke. I hear he's got some.
Yeah, they name drop him in here. They drop him on the floor like boom, Arthur C. Clarke. But like he points out like if you look at a dolphin and a shark, like from an outside observer, like they look very similar. Like their outline is very similar. They swim through the water very similarly. Like their behavior is different. But like if you were an alien looking at these two creatures, you'd be like, they probably know each other. Like they probably hang out.
Yeah.
So like maybe in space when you deal with like these many planets, like maybe intelligent civilizations do end up mostly being, you know, beings around, you know, like 4 to 7 feet tall, with like 2 legs and 2 arms and like a face roughly, you know, above what might be called a torso. And like then you go like, oh well, you know, then that makes it a lot easier because then we can just like make up people and make it work. But like that's the big picture explanation for humanoid presence in the galaxy. And then they went and did the chase, which muddied that a little bit by coming up with a slightly better explanation that's more plausible, but also complicated it because they didn't do it everywhere. Oh my God. Oh God, I don't want to talk about this.
All right. Well, let's talk about this planet. And the idea
there's rings around the planet. One of them is deadly. Oh, that's great.
Right. And that brings up an interesting problem later on, which I think has. I mean, it's the thing that Star Trek does all the time, where it's like the Prime Directive, or in this case, General Order 1. They say like, this is the thing: we can't break this unless blah, 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 or we are here to blah, blah, blah. And then in the next episode, it's like, oh, well, we can't do that because blah, blah, blah. And do you want to add these goggles to your goggle collection, your Discovery goggle collection?
I don't like these ones as much.
No?
No, these are dorky looking.
Oh, okay. These actually look a lot more like the Tron Legacy 3D glasses, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, they do. I mean, but like these also look more like Google Glass.
Yes, which we talked about last week too.
Tig's goggles looked more like some cool cyberpunk goggles. Like something you'd put on to like jack into a VR world where you could hack space Pentagon computers.
Mm-hmm.
Cool stuff like that.
Yeah. This is a pretty crazy sequence. I think it's interesting how she's narrating all of the technobabble to herself.
Yep. Well, I mean, she's doing the thing that you assume these people have to be doing all the time. Because anytime they like find a ship that's been like ravaged by something and everyone's dead, they always find audio logs of people narrating the science experiment that killed everyone.
That's true. I guess that's what it is. I guess that's just in their training. They've got
that's how they do it in Starfleet.
All right. Because there's the thing later on where she's like, "Look, this is how this works," and she's like, "You guys know all this stuff, but whatever."
Yep. Yeah.
I
should point out that when Tilly was flung across the room and like had blood coming out of her ears, I legitimately was like worried.
Yeah, I wasn't worried, but
I was like, nothing better happened to her. I swear.
I wasn't worried, but at the same time, I was like, wow, that is harsh. Like that looks like it would hurt.
Yeah.
So here we are on the planet.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're going into a church. So let's just get out of the way right now. Religion in Star Trek.
Here's the thing is it's like it's always been in Star Trek, but it's always been very much it's always taken a very atheistic point of view,
Yeah, I mean like I remember like there's that episode where like basically monotheism is created on like an alien planet by a humanoid civilization that's in the original series. And it's like, oh, okay, so they just invented monotheism. And Kirk is like, oh man, wouldn't it be great to watch this? Like watch it all happen again, like from the beginning. And like on the one hand, I'm like, I don't think it works that way, bro. And on the other hand, I'm like, kind of does it? Because like if you go into like the philosophy of like religion and how it leads into like culture, it's like there is something to be said for like the unifying effect of like taking all of your mythology and assigning it to like one deity rather than a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm. This is something that bothered me when you see Captain Pike's jacket.
Yeah,
on the back. Like right below the neck, there is a rectangle stitch. That rectangle stitch is clearly for a tag, which is in that jacket, which means it's a product. Well, I mean, it's interesting, like what they're doing here with the idea of like, it's almost like the people who settled here sort of, I guess, realized that the religions of the world were not compatible, and that there was not necessarily one which was correct, but they figured that the overarching themes which run through them have to be correct because of what happened to them, right?
Yep. I mean, when you're whisked away during like World War III to a distant planet, and you're like, okay, so guys, did you see that big red angel looking thing?
Yeah,
and they're like, yeah, I saw that big red angel looking thing, and they're like, okay, so like obviously some freaky stuff happened. Do you think it was aliens? Oh yeah, for sure. Do you think that it was gods? And you go, oh, well, maybe the aliens are gods. And they're like, well, that's Stargate. That's a little on the nose. We can't do that. This is Star Trek. So we got to take a different way with this. But like, I guess that they just, they cobbled together a religion based on their mythology, because they were like, people saw weird stuff throughout history. Maybe they were seeing these things. Maybe all of those miracles and improbable events and, vimanas and all that stuff on Ancient Aliens, maybe they were talking about real stuff. That was aliens.
But the other thing about it is, it's like if that, because what they're saying, this happened like 30 years from now, essentially, right? And
yeah, they're saying it happened real soon. Yeah. Guys, get ready. Red Angels coming to town.
But
get your GoPro cameras out, because honestly, it's probably going to be on a GoPro camera that we capture evidence of this thing.
Well, that's basically what happens here.
Oh yeah, yeah,
it is.
No doubt.
But like, the idea that like, and it's kind of interesting, like setting it like 30 years in the future, and like, having like a really, really sort of like fantastical event, like all of a sudden this building that you're in is transported to another planet, right? And when you're about to die too. And it's like, that thing that, like evolutionary scientists or whatever, they talk about this all the time, which is like, back in the day, thousands of years ago, there was a lot of stuff which could not be explained through science, because science didn't exist. And
also the only clean like liquid that you could drink had alcohol in it, so you were always a little drunk. Because you couldn't drink the water because you'd get malaria and stuff.
Yeah.
So you had to drink wine all the time. So like everyone's a little bit tipsy, and like when you're a little bit tipsy and you see a shooting star, you go, "Whoa, guys, did you just see that?" Pretty sure I saw a flying saucer.
But just the idea that like, without certain scientific concepts, like as a possibility, like the idea of a supreme deity is like the most logical explanation for these things. So, a lot of things, like, for example, evolution, have been explained over the years. And the idea that, like, 30 years from now, some other event which cannot be explained and which you can't investigate, really, because it's like you're not even on the same planet that you were on. Mm-hmm. Like, you could say, like, oh, well, the most logical explanation here is that it was a deity.
Well, like, what this basically means is that the people who were whisked away to this distant planet were not, like, scientists working at CERN.
Well, right.
Because those guys would be like, okay, we've got something to work on. Let's figure this out. Let's get cracking. But like, instead of that, it was a bunch of like regular people and soldiers, and they ended up on a distant planet, and they're like, I don't know what happened, and I don't know where to begin. But do you know how to make a Large Hadron Collider? Because I kinda do.
But they did have scientists there too, obviously, because that's a huge plot point in this episode.
Not on that level. Not on the level where they could actually investigate this sufficiently.
No.
And that's the problem.
No, but on the level of like, hey, I feel like there's a scientific explanation for everything, and there's got to be for this too.
Yeah, the thing that I find impressive is like is that during World War III, a bunch of regular people were whisked away to an alien planet, and that group of regular people during World War III represented all of the major religions on Earth?
I don't think that that's what happened. I think they were like, well, let's see here. And I think what they did was they, regardless of who believed what in that individual sample, right?
Okay.
I think they were saying like, let's take a look at all of the different major religions.
Okay, so they had like the Torah on a Kindle, and like the Quran, like they had like a translated version of that, and like
they did have power sources like that they had electricity in that. I guess I was going to say they would be able to charge their phones, and I think you even see a phone in one shot. But then again, they probably did not have any cell towers on this planet, did they?
No. But I know this because I've done it. You can download Wikipedia.
Sure.
And
All
have maybe not anymore, but 10 years ago, you could download a version of Wikipedia.
Maybe 30 years from now, you can too.
Yeah, I mean, you need a big hard drive, but it's not a deal breaker. So like you can have a local version of it, but like most of the time you don't have it, but it doesn't matter. The point that I'm trying to make is that during World War III, these people, I find it hard to believe that World War III is not going to have a significant religious component. And there's no way around this. Someone in this group of people sees one of those religions as the bad guy.
Sure.
They managed to cobble together a religion is so optimistic.
I mean,
like there's no doubt that whatever group you bring to an alien planet during World War III is going to pick a religion as the bad guy, and they are not going to include it in their new religion.
But again, it's been like 200 years. So how long? I mean, maybe that was how it was initially, but after
I don't know.
while,
I don't work at a deli. So I don't know how long you keep beef fresh.
I don't know what that means.
Beef as in a feud. Fresh as in still present. It's a really good joke. And I stand by it.
I don't know how you would expect anyone to get that joke.
I bet somebody on the internet is like, man, I wish I thought of that.
I guarantee you nobody thought that.
All right. But the point is, like, I don't believe that I don't have enough faith in people to believe that any group of people would actually do this. I mean, if you imagine like a group of let's say it's a big number, let's say 200 people, right? Just take 200 random people from Twitter, like everyone's going to be dead. Everyone's going to be dead so fast.
But I mean, maybe this was a unifying moment. Right?
I mean, sure. You see a big red angel and you get whisked away to an alien planet. Yeah. Maybe you're all like, yeah, let's talk about that red angel god thing.
And I'm wondering how many, because it had to be more people than, I mean, it wasn't just people in the church, right? Because, I mean, they talk about how there's like, 11,000 people on this planet now? And you see like the other building and everything. It had to have been like a whole sort of community, right? I'm sure they talk about this too and just missed it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I mean, they barely touched it. They barely talked about it. Like the number it was a very small number of people, and the population has been expanding. And whatever number they had, it's not enough genetic diversity, and they're on an alien planet that somehow got compatible biology. God, Star Trek science. Jeez, we're back in this.
Well, but clearly this planet was handpicked for them, right?
I mean, we got to assume it was handpicked for them, but like.
This is I don't quite understand.
Not going into detail on this. I feel so bad for this dude.
Which dude?
The dude that they abandoned on this planet.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. I mean, we just watched a short trek where they are like, Saru, you know, you are a genius and you're exhibiting like curiosity towards what it is we're doing. And I mean, sure, Saru's a genius, like he's, beyond whatever. But I mean, like, and here's the other thing, like they say, like, we can't interfere with, this culture's development. We need to let things, play out as they would, because, but the fact of the matter is they sent a signal and said, help us. Right. And they are humans. And it's like, well, that signal worked and they found them. And if this guy's saying, like, take me back to Earth, like, I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Now, I mean, I think it's quite possible that he's like, I don't want to go back, but now that you've given me this knowledge, but it's weird because it is like sending sort of like mixed signals about what General Order 1 is. The other thing about it, I mean, this is sort of in direct conflict with another Pike moment, one of the few Pike moments that we've seen, which was in Into Darkness, where, at the beginning of that movie, they're saving this pre-warp culture.
Yeah.
And he gets mad about that. And here they're like, we have to do this. And now, and granted, okay, General Order 1 is not fully developed. Maybe, the crew of Discovery, just like the writing staff of Discovery, was like, this is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. And they could also say, like, well, this was because of the signal and everything like that. But I really don't think that that's, I mean, it's whatever.
No, it's a really annoying thing that Star Trek can't nail down exactly what this means, because like I was doing the same sort of like math in my head. Like they're here, this disaster is happening. Is it because they're here? Did they cause this? Did they, like, the ship's presence like disrupt it? And they're like, no, this was going to happen.
Well, no, they said it was because of the
degenerating.
signal or something like that.
Right, like this is a thing that's happening. So, like, this did the signal cause this ring to destabilize its orbit and fall into the planet?
Yes, they said there was a massive spike and it could have been caused by the signal. They say that, which I didn't pick up on the first time. I picked up on it the second time, which kind of goes.
They say it could have. They say it could have. I think that the thought that they have is maybe the signal was sent because this was going to happen.
Well, I mean, one of the things that they say is like, we think that that we got the signal so that we could come here and save these people.
Right. There are different ways of interpreting it because they don't know for certain what caused the signal or why the signal was sent or what the signal did or if the signal is responsible for this. Their thinking is the signal brought us here. Maybe that's intentional. Maybe because that signal had to have been sent by a civilization that's more than warp capable, then we must assume that by doing this, we are not violating any basic rules. And maybe this is the equivalent of a god, like saying, hey, Lil, help. And he's basically like pointing to the basketball that rolled away and you toss the ball back in and God's like, cool, thanks, bro. And he gets back to his pickup game with Zeus. So like maybe that's what's going on. That's the mental arithmetic that they're going through. And I'm fine with it. My beef is they just spent a lot of energy getting this asteroid and they just ditch it.
Well, they have to, right? For the thing.
I guess.
Well, no, but don't they say like we can break off a little piece of it? I think they said.
Yeah, they have. They already have a piece. Tilly had her piece in the little.
No, but I think what they were saying is like we don't need to throw the whole asteroid out there. We can break off a little chunk and throw that out, and that'll take care of this ring. Don't they say that?
No, I don't think so. No.
All right.
Because, I mean, breaking off a chunk is a huge deal. It might blow up the ship, remember?
Maybe. I mean, look, I realize, and I keep on saying this, like, I'm sure there are going to be listeners who are like, did you guys even watch this episode? Because how do you not pick up on these basic plot points? But
I didn't. I just read the Wikipedia article on it and moved on with my day.
I mean, the fact of the matter is like...
Because, the reason we do this show is because we hate Star Trek, right? I mean...
the fact of the matter is like when there's a new Star Trek on, this is the only time... And just to put it in perspective, like the premiere was... the first time that I turned off my new phone, which I've had for months since I got my new phone. And I mean, you can ask my wife. I had to ask her how to turn off my phone. Right. But like, I wanted to, oh yeah, that does look like the whole thing, doesn't it?
Okay.
Anyway,
I have to bring this up.
Yeah.
You work in a movie theater.
Right.
You haven't turned off your phone in all this time.
No, I put it on silent and, like a regular person and,
So it just, so you're the guy whose phone is vibrating behind me when I'm going to see a movie.
No, it's hooked up to my Apple Watch. So my Apple Watch vibrates, but it doesn't matter. You can't hear my phone vibrating. Okay. The point is Star Trek is the only thing in my life where it demands so much attention from me that I turn off my phone, right? Like I've watched this episode twice now with zero distractions, whereas anything else that I'm watching at my house, chances are I'm scrolling through Twitter while I'm doing it. And even with that, this like hawk-like attention to the screen, I still am missing these plot points. And I think that suggests that that's not on me. No?
No, I don't. I don't have a problem with not picking up on those details because, like, for the most part, we're talking about things that are not hugely significant.
I mean, I guess, right? Because they are basically MacGuffins, and maybe that's how it is. I mean, like, if I go back, I mean, I can't tell you any technobabble. I mean, like, last week you were talking about pulsars, and I'm like, what's a pulsar? And, you know...
It's a star that's spinning.
I looked it up afterwards, okay? But the point is, like, I wasn't thinking, like, oh, the science behind this doesn't work, right? But there are a lot of questions here, which I have, and I really do think that it is because they're not doing a good job of explaining it. But
yeah, I don't care about like a lot of the things that they're not doing a good job of explaining. Like, I'm fine with that.
I mean it usually doesn't bother me either because it's not really like super important. But some of these things are things which are obviously continuing throughout the season, and I think I need to go back again and really pay attention to figure it all out.
It can be annoying when the characters are making a super big deal out of something that they have explained in like 2 scenes of technobabble,
right?
And like you're like, that's not real. Like, guys, that's not a real thing.
Well, it is just like, if it's like, so, I mean, there's times, I mean, we always make fun of like Batman Begins when in the big climax of the movie where they're trying to stop the train before the, a water evaporator gets to the thing. And
the magic microwave thing that blows up water sources.
And you have the guy who's like really, really concerned about this, who works for like the city, who's like, if that train gets to the center of the city, then the whole place is going to blow up. And like, he basically says variations of that line like 25 times in the span of like a minute in order to really hit the point home as to what's going on here so that everyone is aware. As much as we make fun of that, like, there does need to be some of that there. As much as we make fun of like every other incarnation of Star Trek where they give like some, really long explanation and they say like, so basically, it's like when you're kicking a football through a goalpost, and then they're like, yeah, it's exactly like that. That's a bit of an oversimplification, but yeah, that's basically what I mean.
Janeway pivots towards camera, raises her hand in the air and says, Matchbox cars. And that somehow makes it all work.
But there is something to be said for that thing. Like, as cheesy as it is in the moment, like, you do know what they're talking about then. And I mean, like, they do that here. They're like, so basically it's like a donut with a starship.
Yeah, we're doing donuts. It's not a parking lot, but whatever.
But I mean, that's a great moment. It's a great line, but it also like hits home as to what it is they're doing. Because I guarantee you, I wouldn't have known if they didn't say, so you're doing a donut with a starship.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, guys, they kind of aren't really doing donuts. They're really like just pulling a hard U-turn, but whatever.
Oh, no, I mean, I think the pivot point is the saucer section, and that's what makes it a donut. But it's hard to tell because the way that it's shot, like the angle, like if I were shooting that spaceship with my camera, and I would probably put the camera above the spaceship so that you could actually see like the rotation of it, but the angle that they have it at, the first time I was like, where's the donut? Like, I was expecting like whoosh, 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 and then when it's just kind of like turns a little bit, it's like,
they didn't sell it. I mean, obviously what you're saying is that Jonathan Frakes was bad. He's bad.
No, but
is that what you're saying?
But here's the thing about it. Like, Jonathan Frakes' direction in this is great, right? I mean, and I read an interview with him. It's cool. I love how they're playing it up because they're totally pulling an us move and being like, isn't this cool that Jonathan Frakes is directing Star Trek? And I know they don't do that when they have like, well, let's say Douglas Erniekoski directing Star Trek, even though, we get really excited about that. The reason why, of course, it's Frakes that they're getting excited about is because he was on that episode of Next Generation, Descent Part 1.
Descent Part 1.
And, but it is cool. Like, he's been doing interviews and stuff.
I have to break character for a moment. We got to keep this runner going as long as possible.
But, like, he's been talking. You know, it's cool because like what you get is like an interview with the director on this show, which is cool because that doesn't happen too often. And he was talking in one interview about how like they were saying like, wow, you know, this show is really cinematic. And he's like, yeah, you know, you get everything that you would get on a movie. You get the time to do it, you get the resources, and also the freedom to make it cool. He's like, they basically tell you like, do crazy crap that will look cool, you know, keep on trying, you know, and that's obviously something which was not happening on, you know, the next gen era shows. You know, you have like a Dutch angle in there and everyone just like freaks out like, you know, the world is ending or something. And so he is good. Like his camera placements, his movements, you know, there's like one shot of like a thing where the camera sort of was like floating in like a weird angle and twisting. And I'm like, that's straight out of, you know, First Contact. And then when he puts like the camera on the spinny thing outside of when they're going to the, he's good. That's all I'm saying is he's good.
Well, no, that shot I think already existed.
I think they did it once before, and also like when the disco is upside down, when the camera tilts down to the planet. I mean, there's a lot of cool stuff in this.
No, I mean, like I assume that when directors are working on a show like this, where it's clear that the producers and the executives like care about it being awesome. I assume that when you're a director on a show like this, it's the most fun ever because all of the stuff that you want to do, you get to do.
I mean, it's really interesting. Like you listen to Ron Moore's commentaries for Battlestar Galactica, and they talk about,
which you know I've done a lot.
Yeah, I've listened to all of them too. They're great. And you know, he talks about like the freedom that they give the directors on that show, and they're like they trust the people who are directing it, and they basically let them do whatever they want to the point of like changing dialogue and stuff, you know. And I think that's really cool.
No, I mean, like it definitely pays off. I mean, if you have somebody who knows what they're doing and they want to do something, it's probably a good idea to at least hear them out. They probably have a good idea. So,
okay, I have a thing here. Today, I was trying to connect my laptop to a TV.
BT Dubs, that helmet looks a lot like the helmets in Aliens, and the camera looks a lot like the cameras on the helmets in Aliens.
Interesting.
So, yeah, Aliens is awesome.
So, you know, like I was having a lot of trouble connecting my laptop to this TV because the TV had an HDMI output and my laptop had like a lightning port. And in the end, I had to use a different laptop because we just didn't have the right cable. And then this dude hands this other dude like a power cell, and he's able to like turn on the lights in 5 seconds. That bothers me. I mean, granted, they were probably like, what kind of power did they have back? Okay, this will work, and this dude will figure it out. But like, it just seems a little convenient.
It does beg the question when you consider like how many times like you get on a plane that says it has like in-seat power, and you get there and you look at it and you're like, what is this like 6-pronged hole? What? Who has this adapter? Like, what is going on? Like the technology of the future. I mean, like I have my own headcanon about this, but I mean, like my thinking is because Star Trek frequently deals with technologies that are like overlapping. Like people are always like, what if we did what if we applied like a filter, like it was underwater? And it's like, okay, let's just do that. Oh, that's what it sounds like underwater. How is that just like, where's the hotkey combination in like Final Cut Pro to like turn this into the underwater version of it? And it's like they must have like the technology has to like advance in like a certain way. Like they have to have technology to like interface with technology. Like the technology of interfacing has to have advanced much farther than a lot of other things.
Yeah, and I think, the other thing is we've seen them use replicators and everything. I'm sure. I don't think that this is a mistake. I just always think it's funny whenever it happens, just because it's like, how is it that simple? But I'm sure, like in my headcanon, what they did was say, what kind of power source do they have there? Okay, well then let's make this thing, which will be compatible. My thinking
is because this is our future and it's not that far in the future, whatever that power cell was designed for, it for sure has a USB input.
It's probably true. When you think about how long, we've gone through some drastic changes in recent years. Firewire, right? That was the big thing 10 years ago, right?
That was the big thing for people with Macs 20 years ago.
Okay, I'm just saying,
USB has been around for a very long time, and while it's always backwards compatible, so whatever they have, it's probably going to be USB number something protocol.
I think that you're right. If you just look at power cords and phone jacks, those things haven't changed since I was born. So
try to plug that power cord in on a plane.
I'm just saying that I think that USB has reached a point where it's going to stand the test of time as much as power cords and phone jacks have.
Well, there's a reason it's called Universal Serial Bus. It's universal. And it does things in a serial manner. So data can be transmitted very, very rapidly across lots of different platforms. It's a great protocol. Guys, get into USB.
Yeah. It's the wave of the future.
This episode was brought to you by IEEE standards.
I don't know if I ever told you this, completely random or whatever, but not the one that exists today, but the idea of a phone jack was co-created by my grandpa.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I told you that.
You told me the story. We were there, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool."
Oh, okay, yeah. It's a weird little thing. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So.
Yeah, suck it, guy on alien planet trapped there forever. Mike's grandpa made phones happen. What did your ancestors do? They broke a camera? Nice job, guy on an alien planet.
Anyway, what are we talking about again? Star Trek.
We were talking about how that guy's ancestors are chumps.
Okay, well...
hold on a second. His ancestors were whisked away from Earth. Within their lifetimes, Zephyr Cochrane, makes the Phoenix. Guys, cut them a break. Tell them, come on. They were so close.
Yeah. No, it's true. That's true. And, and that's the other thing is they're we want to tell you, but protect, if you're that guy, if you're the scientist guy, do you see, it seems like the implication is that he's going to keep it a secret from them, but I wouldn't.
No, the thing I infer is that he's going to say here's the thing, those guys were from space, and there are going to be a few people who are yeah, it sounds like they were from space because I've been to the North and I have never seen one of those guns that you described. and you're okay, well, yeah, that they probably have some followers, and then it becomes a new religion, a religion that believes that humanity made it into the stars. Wow, that's a boring religion.
It's Star Trek, right?
Yeah, it does sound like that, doesn't it? Maybe he makes a show called Star Trek, and
here's an interesting thing.
Still trying to make the original series fit.
I guess here's an interesting thing is it looks like this season is going to deal a lot with religion, and it just ties into this episode. We spent most of the time complaining about it, right?
I don't think so. I don't think we spent most of the time complaining about it. We raised some issues, but this is one of the things about this show. It moves very fast. So when something comes up that bugs us, it's not a huge deal because it's still going and there's still interesting stuff happening. I think all the characters were really well done in this episode. Even when Tilly and stuff are talking about nonsense and like Saru comes in is like what dumb thing were you doing, Tilly? And she's like, oh, here's some technobabble. And Saru is like, oh my God, Tilly.
Yeah, the Tilly,
you're awesome.
The Tilly stuff was super solid, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, there's plenty of stuff going on. That's great. And like, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not watching the show because I have a problem with it.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I mean, because, people have said, hey, why are you watching the show if you don't like it? And the answer to that, really, which I think we've talked about at times, but the answer to that, at least for me, is because in a lot of ways, Star Trek, is the closest thing that I have to religion.
Yeah, for me, it was Star Wars until the prequels came around.
I mean, Star Wars, I've always liked Star Wars more than Star Trek. Sorry, everybody, it's true, but that's not.
Oh boy! Oh jeez.
Yeah, I know, but
okay.
But
oh my God,
Star Trek is more important to me. Like, Star Trek is the closest thing that I have to religion, and the reason for it is because of the teachings in Star Trek. The way that Star Trek embraces science too, but also more importantly than that, the world view of Star Trek, the way that Star Trek sees humanity and how it changes throughout time and everything like that. It's really important, and it influences my way of thinking. And
no, I agree. I mean, for me, my favorite thing about Star Trek is that the original intention was not just simply to represent the positive idea. It was actually intended to manifest that positive idea.
Yeah.
Star Trek was designed as a transformative work of art. I'm making this to change things. I'm making this to affect the future and make this future happen. This is a cool future. Don't you want this to happen? Let's make it happen. That was the idea, and that is what I respond to the most.
Yeah.
And that is why I'm bummed out that they keep going back to the past. that is why, because I care so much about it.
Well, I'm
bummed that it goes back to the past.
Well, Picard
and
shows
I don't
want to be so.
I don't want to be Bane about this. I don't want to be like, you've lost your way, Gotham. I'm not going to do that. I'm just like, hey guys, you can do more than what you've been doing. This is an amazing thing you've got. Let's not waste it.
But my point with all of this is that, I was raised Catholic, so I naturally sort of gravitate towards Christianity in terms of religious references or whatever. But I don't really, and maybe this does happen. It probably does, but whatever. But you don't really hear people talking about oh, I'm a really big fan of Matthew, but Luke is kind of like the Voyager of the New Testament or whatever. You know what I mean? You don't really have that, and people don't just ignore one because they don't like it. You know what I mean?
I hear what you're saying, but let's be honest. Revelations is straight up JJ Fisk.
I don't even know what that means, but I appreciate the joke. It was much better than your beef joke.
The Leviticus, no question about it. Leviticus is Enterprise.
Okay, well, whatever. My point being, it's all important. It's all important, and even if you don't like it, you still have to watch it, and you still have to talk about it, and it's still very much a very important part of at least my life. I'm assuming yours too. So that's why we're doing this. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens throughout this season. And even though I might even say that this is my least favorite episode of Discovery, I still thought it was good.
Yeah, I didn't. I think this was. I think it was great. I mean, I'm really into it. I have no problem. I have no serious problem with anything. I have a lot of little issues with these things. No significant problems. I can't think of an episode of Discovery so far that I would not be super down to watch again, except except for that one where Saru goes crazy because he feels safe.
That is a kind of a weak one, but it kicks off. I love how it kicks off like the best stuff that they've done.
Yeah, I mean, like you can't skip it when you're showing it to somebody else. I mean, but like, I'm really into this show. I mean, I'm into it. I'm on board, guys. You know.
Yeah, and the things that we were saying are nitpicky, but they're what comes to mind. They are,
but being critical of things is how I show love, which is why my wife punches me frequently.
Well, you probably have it coming. So,
and it's why, like you, I love you like a brother, but you will die by my hands.
I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Should we wrap this up? Be sure to check out our Discovery coverage throughout the week. Live from the Edge with Bruce and Brandy. Postcards from the Edge with Amy. Full analysis on the Edge main show with Patrick. And, of course, there's Notes from the Edge with Chris. And then there's our show, Tracks from the Edge. I'm going to start changing the Edge puns at the end of the show to Tracks puns at the end of the show.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just because I'm running out of Edge puns.
Okay.
Anyway, you'll find all of these in the main feed for the Edge or in the Trek FM master feed. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on Discovery. We'd love to hear why you think we're wrong. I mean, you guys haven't been shy about that, but keep it coming, And I mean, did we miss everything? Is it all there? It's all there. Did you have a problem with the clarity in this episode? Did people have trouble figuring out what's going on here? I don't know. Whatever. Let us know. Anyway, the best place to share your thoughts is in the Babel Conference, which is our listeners group on Facebook, where Amy Nelson will collect your feedback for postcards from the Edge. You can also find us on Twitter at TrekFM, or you can send us an email using the contact form on our website at trek.fm/contact. Just choose to send to a show and choose the Edge. Where can people find you on the internet, Max?
I'm on Twitter at Max Hegel, and I'm not on any other social media things, and I'm barely on Twitter.
Yeah, you're barely on Twitter. You favorited all of my 2.35 to 1 gasoline tweets the other day, and
which I'm very happy you noticed.
Yeah, and that's the most interaction I've ever had with you on Twitter. I'd still one day maybe you'll start following me. I doubt it, but maybe one day. Anyway, if you want to find me on Twitter and see the picture of me in the disco captain's chair with my Josie and the Pussycats t-shirt, it's Mumbles 3K. And you can also find us doing a show called Film Damage about film projection at filmdamagepod.com. We will get to that episode where we talk about the first scene in season 2. People have actually been asking for it. The only holdup that we have is Max going to see Glass, so that we can do a review of that as well. So Max, It's all on you. Go see Glass.
All right. Now that I know that I'm the one holding up this, because I'm petty, I am less inclined to see Glass.
Yep, I know. Anyway, we'd also like to thank our associate producers, Norman C. Lau, Tony Robinson, Thomas Puleo, Lisa Slack, Shoaib Mirza, Richard Rutledge, James Muldrow, Cornelia Reutner, Ryan Malett, and Brian Malosh. Thank you all very much for your support. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you. If you'd like to help us keep all of our shows going and even become an associate producer, visit patreon.com/trekfm for all the details. All right. That's it. I'm starting the track thing now, right?
Yeah, you're going to start the track thing.
Yeah. So we'll see you all next week. But until then, watch some Star Trek.